Hi everybody, welcome to Beardychiel's Knitting Banter, episode 8. Have I got a name for episode 8? Yo ho ho! Here I am, white beard, red suit, well, red jumper, and it's the festive season. I am John Glenn, your presenter for Beardychiel's Knitting Podcast. Podcast, my body's here, having helped you all looking at it. Podcast. And if you're looking for me, you will find me on Ravelry as Beardychiel, on Instagram as Beardychiel, on Twitter as Beardychiel. There's a Beardychiel page on Facebook, and you will also find me on email, beardychiel@gmail.com, and all of these things will have appeared as I was speaking. So, welcome to episode 8. I have no show notes as such. That's a lie. I have show notes sitting in front of me. They are the show notes, if anyone can see, for episode 7. I keep them as a guide for myself. I don't have anything for episode 8 because I finished some outside external filming for episode 8 on Monday. I spent Tuesday on other duties. Wednesday vanished incredibly quickly. We're now on Thursday, and I was hoping to have this up by today, but hey ho, let's see how it goes. What do we have for you in this episode? Well, having spent all day Monday on my external filming and some research work, I have decided to take out some of the bits that I sometimes put in. I have decided not to put in a vintage pattern section today. I've decided not to put in I've decided to do it in my local area in a different way, and that will become self-evident as we go on over the next couple of minutes. What do we have? Well, we have our works in progress, as always. We have some finished objects, some of which are still with us and some of which are travelling as we speak to pastures new. And we have some which are finished objects which are about to find themselves wrapped in Christmas paper and go off as a gift to someone. And within finished objects, I have not only my own finished objects, but I have a finished object from one of my occasional visitors. So hopefully you'll enjoy that. And I don't really know where to start today. Let's start with works in progress. As you know, I am a great one for having multiple works in progress on the go. And the work in progress which I've decided to have with me today is this one. And it's right at the very beginning. It's a very good place to start, and it's in my lovely needle cozy. Thanks, Helen. So that you know it's still in use on a regular basis. Oh, you know something, I've jammed these needles in that well, I can't get them back out again. Right, this is the old anodised aluminium double pointed needles, and it's the start of a sock. I had started with this yarn thinking about a set of fingerless gloves, or these yarns, and the more I looked at them, the more I thought, you know something, I actually want these for socks for myself. So the little bit of a start that had happened on a fingerless glove was ripped out and restarted again just last night, because I've had such a rush since the end of panto season here in Thurso, that I decided it was time to get, it was time to get some other things on the go. some things finished off, and that's exactly what I've been doing. So let's have a little looky here. So here we go. Lighting in here is not particularly wonderful. So we've got a light blue and we've got a variegated green going together here, creating some stripes on the cuff for the top of the sock. My hand wandered right up out of shot there and I didn't even notice. But the yarns themselves are quite interesting. The green has a lot of variegation on it and a lot of change, and I'm hoping that's going to reflect well. Oh, look at that, it's a piece of blue escaped. So I'm looking forward to that. Quite a dark shade. The blue you've seen before, it's the remainder of the stuff I used for the little Aaron baby matinee jacket a month or so ago, and I'm really enjoying that so far. It's been quite good fun. And that's my little travelling work in progress. My vintage waistcoat, for those of you who have been following on Instagram, is growing nicely. The back is complete. I'm above the armhole in the end of front number 1. Front number 2 is my project for between Christmas and New Year, and I'm not going to show you it now because the next time you will see that, I'm hoping will be in my podcast round about New Year, when you will see a finished waistcoat regaling my stunning physique. Yes, I know I have a wicked sense of humour if I think I have a stunning physique. I've seen it getting out of the bath and I'll tell you it stuns me. In fact, it would stun pigs. Suffice it to say, I'm not going to show you it again until it's completely finished. 1 or 2 design ideas for it that I'm really looking forward to. 1 or 2 where I haven't managed to resolve a couple of minor finishing off points, but we will get there. In case you're wondering, I have with me Grandad's Big Mug, which is one giant mug of winter tea. I showed you a while ago my favourite festive tea from Tea India, which has cardamom and cloves and cinnamon and all sorts of Christmas spices in it. A wonderful chai. So this is what's in my cup today because it's absolutely freezing here in Caithness. And as we progress, I will dot back and forward to my tea to take the chill off my throat. So those are the 2 immediate works in progress. There is the scarf cum shawl, which will also get finished over the Christmas period now because there's going to be plenty of time for it. As I say, Pantomime had an absolutely stunning sellout run here in Thurso, and the customers were absolutely delighted. The cast were delighted. The crew were delighted. The local press reviews were, I would have to say, some of the best that I've had for a long time. I was very, very happy with them. And the author, I have to say thank you very much to him because he has very kindly allowed us to record the performances and to put them together into a video which our amateur cast and crew can use as a self-crit device, and he hasn't asked for any performance royalties for that as long as it's kept entirely for educational purposes. He's allowed a copy to go to each member of the cast and each member of the crew, so thank you very much indeed for that. There are 1 or 2 sections which he also let me add to the pantomime based on local humour, and I have to thank some local well-known faces for helping with that. One of them you've met before, Valerie, who joined me on the trip to King Craig's Crafts earlier in the year, to one of our local councillors, Councillor Roger Saxon, and to the chef patron of our local French restaurant, Bordelot in Wick, Danny Chrétien. Merci beaucoup, Danny. Now, their performances were not part of the main panto script, and at some point in time they went into a small news flash and I will quite happily arrange that news flash when the amateur theatre group decide to share that on YouTube gets tied to one of my podcasts so that you can have a laugh. Right, completed objects is where we're going next. And completed objects, there are 4 completed objects. Completed object number 1 is the pair of socks that I was knitting for Eva Christie's Podcaster's Christmas Sock Swap. And I have sent them off to the recipient who lives here in the UK. I'm hoping that they've arrived safely this week. And as with all podcasters, when we do things like this, knitters, when we do little swaps, it wasn't just the socks, there was a little something extra went into the parcel, which was good fun to do. So I hope it arrives safely, I hope they fit, and I hope they're enjoyed. And a photograph of those has obviously been showing while we've been working. Set of socks number 2 are sitting here with me. These are about to be wrapped and become a Christmas present, and they are quite long and quite in your face. They're boot socks for a friend who had said that they wanted a pair of socks for putting inside boots. Walking boots, or work boots rather. Not welly boots, but formal steel toe cap type boots for a rather unusual hobby. And these have been wonderful to work on. They're knitted in Drops Delight. They are, I think, a 75-25 woolen nylon mix. Lovely to knit up. The actual sock itself is a relatively straightforward. It's a 3-1 rib for most of it. A plain sole, knitted toe up, and a German short row heel. So nothing particularly outlandish or unusual on it, but I just love it. A little 2x2 rib at the top, and they're designed to have a little cuff created. And I have to say, when I finished them, and I turned down the cuff and I looked at them, I actually thought, you know something, I wouldn't actually mind a pair of those myself. So, I'm going to have to go and look for some equally bright sock yarn for myself. They smell wonderful because they've had a wash. They've actually been outside having a blow in the wind. And you know how when things come back off a line, even in the depth of winter when they're really, really cold, you bring them in, you let them warm up by a radiator, and they just smell so fresh. So that's that one. My son's partner Louise said to me, "Hello, Granda. The boys don't really have Santa stockings. Could you make us some? And how can a Granda say no to 2 of his boys?" So, especially for Santa coming, we have 1 Santa sock ready to go for Reuben, all ready to hang by the mantle with care in the hope that St. Nicholas soon will be there. And to make sure that they don't get mixed up, 1 sock for Leo. And I'm hoping that they both enjoy their Santa socks. They were great fun to knit. They are just quick acrylic throw togethers. Really good fun putting a little bit of Christmas motif onto them. Red and white was fairly obvious for one, and white and red for the other, or white and a range of reds, browns, purples. Into this one has a tassel on it. I don't know if the tassel will stay, don't know if I really like it. Haven't put a tassel on the other one yet, but that may yet appear. And that finishes the completed objects. So that has gone really quite quick. What else have I been up to? Oh, works in progress. Well, the other work in progress, you all know that in the last podcast I was saying that I had been doing some spinning on my trusty drop spindle and that I had been thoroughly enjoying it. Well, having run out of fleece, I nipped online and I found a wonderful supplier, and I duly ordered 3 colours of Jacob, and my fleece arrived and I have a nice chocolate brown or black, I have a lovely silver grey, and I had a natural arrive. Well, the natural has been spun. The grey got started the other week and is in the process of being spun, and it's spinning up quite nicely as somewhere between a lace and a 4-ply, and I'm really quite enjoying it. So I'll need to get that finished and get the chocolate brown finished. All in all, that'll leave me with 300 grams of hand spun wool. I haven't decided on a project for it yet. I'll finish the spinning, I'll get it skeined up, and then I'll decide. And because I only have the one spindle, as I finish with the spindle, I've just been using a wool winder and taking it straight off into balls, as you can see, and it's going great guns. I'm really enjoying it. It's good fun. So that was that bit. Stash enhancement. Has there been any stash enhancement? Has there been anything new added to the yarn supply? Well, I was trying to be good and use up as much of what I had at home, and as you can see, I'm still working on that. But 2 Sundays ago, Janet and I went to Inverness to do our Christmas present shopping, and in the process we had to stop off for 1 or 2 things as gifts in Hobbycraft. And they had a yarn sale, as always. So I went into their yarn sale and I looked round and I said, no, we don't need anything here. We definitely don't need anything here. And on the way out the door, as I was walking past the display, I thought, oh, those colours are wonderful. And 3 200-gram balls of acrylic chunky happened to fall into my basket and came home. I have a very cosy plan for them, and I don't intend to show you them until the plan is finished, and then I'll tell you what they are. I'll tell you how I've used them. I will say of them that they are very autumnal, and that's the only thing I'm going to say at present. And that brings me to my last piece of stash enhancement. And my last piece of stash enhancement actually takes me into my local area, and it takes me into my outside broadcast element. You know that recently I have been trying to incorporate elements from different local crafters into the podcast from time to time, and this podcast being the one coming up to Christmas, I thought, let's do something special. Someone who I've spoken to at local events over the last couple of years and who I've bought yarn from and thoroughly enjoyed the quality of their product are Laurence and Clive Shepherd, who are better known amongst Scots yarn people as Guncraft. And Guncraft is based at their cottage in Skerra. And now Skerra is a village in Sutherland on the north coast of Scotland. So it's about an hour and a half's drive west, an hour and a quarter to an hour and a half from where I am in Thurso. And we keep in touch, and we had a long chat at the Perth Yarn Festival. Then we were chatting a couple of weeks ago at the Latheran craft fair, winter craft fair. And I said, you know, we should really get together and film something for the podcast. And they said, yes, we should. So on Monday, I decided to have the first long drive that I've attempted since I was ill at the summer. And I had a very leisurely and sedate drive along the north coast in beautiful weather to the village of Skera, where I duly got lost in one of the few parts, or one of the many parts of the United Kingdom where there is no mobile phone signal and where old-fashioned road maps are relatively accurate, but for the sake of one stop and asking for advice from one person in the village, I got to their house at the time we agreed, and we then spent a morning drinking tea and chatting about how we came to be in the north and chatting about crafting, ecology, sustainability. We put the world to rights in terms of the fibre arts. And we both learned a lot about the other. I learned a lot about Clive and Laurence. I learned a lot about their outlook on life. I learned a lot about their aspirations for what they were doing. And as I'm chatting, I'm watching the sky change colour. It's getting sort of middling dark at the moment. It's about 3:15, 3:30 in the afternoon when I'm doing this, and you can see that it's well gone twilight already. So just persevere with me, and I hope that the light that's left is enough to get us through the rest of what's happening in this podcast. So, ladies and gentlemen, I will pass you over to my good self in Skera at Guncraft with Laurence and Clive. Enjoy the film. Very nicely. I'll give it a second or two to calm down first.
Yes.
Well, Beardychiel's gone on the wander today. He's in Sutherland. He's come all the way to Skera, and he's with Laurence Shepherd from Guncrafts. Clive's here somewhere, but he's hiding because he's trying to be shy. But we will get him on camera before I manage to leave. And we've been talking about dyeing, haven't we?
We have indeed, yes. So I was showing you my our samples of all the dyeing we've done over the last couple of years. And as I said to you, it started very neatly and then it got a bit sort of untidy but exciting, and we keep scrupulous notes of the yarn we dye and how we dye it, so that we can repeat what we've been doing and just experiment some more and play some more.
So, of all the things that you've done so far, you specialise in dyeing with natural product.
Yes.
What has been for you the most exciting material to dye with? Which has been the most surprising?
Surprising and not, indigo, because it's we know it's a different system of dyeing, because normally you boil your dye stuff, you can remove it from your pan, wait for the temperature to lower, put your wet mordanted yarn into the pan, and then let it simmer gently. It will give you the colour you want, or you hope to get, and then you keep notes, etc. Now with indigo, it's really dipping in something that's already been processing itself by different ways, and and when it goes in, it looks a pale green, a bit like this colour, and you know that when it comes out of the saucepan, it's going to turn blue because oxygen is reintroduced. And you know that, but every time you do it, it's just still magical, and the edge is so good. You just sometimes I say to her, it's like a friend of mine was a midwife, and she said she's helped many babies being born, but every time she cries, it's that you know what's going to happen, and what you're going to get at the end of it, but every time it's just wow. It's just great. So
okay, so what would you say is the most unusual dye material that you've used?
Good question. The most unusual. Well, I could say nearly onion skin actually, because it's something we kind of ignored for a while, because everybody who's dabbled into dyeing with botanicals onion skin, because you always have onions and you play with that. So we thought therefore not all that exciting, which was totally wrong approach to have, because about a year later I decided, right, let's collect them and play about with it, and that was very exciting, because I didn't think it would be a colour that would be all that different, you know. I thought it would be a browny thing, and I've nothing against brown, but you know, it's. But when we saw what came out, I think that probably was the first one we did, which you may not see here, but it's just more bronze than anything else. And we have another one somewhere which turned. This is done with onion skins as well.
It's a really soft green.
It is, and you say, well, what's going on here? So
different mordant, or?
No, it's not different mordant, but there was a lot of red onion skins as well. Because of course, when I was a kid, you buy an onion, is a brown onion, and the story. Of course, nowadays you have the red ones, and here I must have put whatever onion skins we had, a bit of both, but probably more of the brown one, and here there was more of the red one, according to my notes. Now we'll have to repeat that and see exactly how it works, but it could be a bit of a remnant of what was in the pan, which, depending on the quality of the pan, it gets pitted, and as much as you clean it, you will have a little bit of residue of something, which will give you an exciting product, which may or may not be repeatable.
Which is what we were saying earlier, that if you want that shade of green, always go to Mrs. Thompson, because she always gets that shade of green. Her pan is her pan. Exactly.
And likewise, we have done some indigo in a pan that was previously used with logwood, which is from a tree not native from here, and we buy the extract from a wonderful lady who really sources the material very well. And scrub the pan, there's nothing, but you could see the pitted bit. I'm not going to go with a pen because, you know,
time.
But it's not worth my time, and life's too short. And we had a really sort of nice bluey purple that was quite, no, that was the other way around, but we had a sort of, I suppose, a purple blue rather than bluey purple, if you see what I mean. And it just possibly is difficult to reproduce, but because I keep scrupulous notes, I would have put a not very well cleaned up pot, and I know where I'm at with that. But everything is exciting.
Yes,
really. It's I just love it.
Now I have to ask, having seen the range of colours you have here, everybody has a day when everything goes completely topsy-turvy. What has been the worst dyeing disaster you've had? Or is there anything that counts as a disaster and not just a happy little accident?
I can't think of it as disaster. It's always learning, so to me that can never be a disaster. Now, because we keep, I mean, sometimes I've seen things where it's right, so we're going to do 500 grams of this particular yarn in this particular dye bath with so much plant material, etc. So I'm writing all this down, fine. And of course there's a wee bit of a wash left over. And so on my note I would put wash of number 1. Yeah. And I might add a bit of this, a bit of that. But I remember once we tried to play with what was it? And if you just give me a moment, I will find it. The notes were interesting. I should have thought of that before. But anyway, we added a bit of this and a bit of that and a bit of vinegar, and we thought, do you know, I hope nobody likes this because it's just too much. Yes, a bit of copper. That's why we use a bit of copper water. So so we put a bit of iron, and it was a weak change to what we had originally. So we decided, well, we've got some beetroot powder, which is apparently good for you. And I thought, okay, we've got some of this, we should get something. So 2 teaspoons of that, no effect. So okay, let's play with that. So and these are my notes, all right? So 4 teaspoons of copper for 20 minutes equals so-so. And then we thought, right, just give him a good bit of logwood and get something out of this. So that's number 65, which is somewhere, and was actually quite nice. And that will be the last one I find. I should know what it is. Oh heck. No, can't find it. You will have to edit this.
We'll do the editing, don't you worry about that, we'll find it.
Well, anyway, it turned out to be a very nice girl, which is somewhere here, but obviously can't find it because I know.
That's because we're doing this on the hoof.
Exactly, yes, it's natural.
It's natural.
Or our eyes. But anyway, so that's my second book, which started to be very well written and ended up, but I understand what I'm saying in all this. In page 1 is probably, no, it's not well written either.
That's okay.
Yeah.
So, we've spent a big bit of the morning chatting about dying and chatting about ourselves and our pasts. And you've come all the way to the north of Sutherland.
Yes.
And you've settled here. And you dye and you knit.
Yes.
What's your favourite thing to knit? He says, looking at some fingerless gloves.
Well, I like doing that. I used to be scared of some knitting. Clive bought me a lovely pattern for Shetland shawl.
Oh, nice.
And with a Shetland wool and the needle, everything. And I thought, oh, this is lovely. And I'm thinking, oh gosh, this is going to give me a headache, because you're talking about charts, you're talking about things, I have to look at the translation, you know, the legend as to what this sign means, etc. And I thought, oh, this is crazy. So I did the first few rows quite quickly, and then came the pattern. And I got really scared, because I thought, if I make a mistake, how do I undo this?
And lacework is notoriously difficult to go back on.
And then I thought, well, hang on a minute. So I left it for a wee while, because it takes time. And after a while I thought, what's going to happen if I make a mistake?
Start again.
Or not. It's my show, I was doing it for me. And I thought, well, nobody's going to get hurt. Nobody's going to die. So just go for it. And I've not finished it, because having gone to wool festivals or craft fairs, you know, you've got to be with people, so you can't say, hang on a minute, I'm right in the middle of this bit, so I never take it there. So I take other projects that I can stop and go back to easily. So it's still not finished, but I've done quite a bit. I've done 3 charts.
Wonderful.
4, and of course it gets bigger and bigger,
and
then of course it's the border. So I like a challenge. Probably my favourite of all time is sock knitting.
Right.
Because apart from one pair of socks, I only ever wear my hand knitted socks.
Now, I know someone else who was saying just the other day online that that's exactly what they're aiming to try and do in the future. And that was Eva from the Perth Yarn Festival. Good. So Eva Christie, you have a soulmate here in Sutherland who's looking to live entirely in her own socks.
Yes, well, yes.
That should be fun. That should be fun.
Yes, I will enjoy that.
Knitting, dyeing,
spinning.
Is there time for anything else?
Candle making, a bit of micro macrame, crochet.
Wonderful.
And plus a million other. I love cooking, which is creative as well.
Yeah.
There's millions of other crafts I would like to dabble at. I've got a sewing machine. Not really done anything with it.
You'll get it.
But I like the idea of including different things. I mean, like dyeing the yarn or spinning it and knitting it. So there's a connection there. candle making, I don't see how I can introduce it in that, but maybe in batik fabric. So there's always some kind of thing going on. Any crafts, I'm really interested in crafts. Card making. I used to do pottery and making cards with little pottery fishes. I used to make and crochet very fine yarn to make like nets.
Oh, wonderful.
So yes, it's endless, but I need to sleep a lot as well. So
yeah, there is that sort of inclination this far north that from October to March we should really be asleep.
Yes, but
doesn't work.
No, and also we don't have a television. I mean, we do have one to watch DVDs, but we don't have television.
Well, no signal up here, of course.
But maybe if you had a dish, but I don't know, but we're not interested. So it suits us fine. So therefore you have a lot more time, or you're able to make more time, shall we say.
And the time's filled more productively.
Yes, yes. However, we do enjoy a good film.
Quite right.
Yes.
Well, listen, thanks very much. I'm going to go and we're going to pester Clive for a while.
Okay, see if you can find him. Okay.
We'll be back with you in a minute or two after this message from our sponsor. And just before I sneak off to see Clive, I've managed to steal a minute or two with Laurence and her book, and I'm going to ask her to flick through and look at the range of natural colours that some of these yarns have on them, because I'm blown away by
how bright some of them
not just how bright some of them are, but the range and the depth of colour from natural products. I think some of them are absolutely phenomenal. And again, a range of materials, some wool, some silk, some bits of bamboo, bits of all sorts of things included in some of these. Some locks, some 2-ply, some 4-ply, some fairly chunky stuff, some fine stuff. There's a little of everything.
Yes.
And that's just it. There are no two that are exactly the same. And I find that absolutely fantastic. We were looking at these and we were discussing the fact that on each card there seems to be a sort of natural palette of things which you could see 2 or 3 going together into a single garment, or 4 or 5 going into a single garment. And I know that for some of these you've put multiple colours together. For example, I know specifically that one is sitting at home in my bag because that's one of the skeins that I bought a while ago, and I still have that sitting waiting to be used because I'm a lazy beggar.
Well, we have somebody who bought 2 of those to do the Martin Obehm hitchhikers shore pattern, and she's a very, very busy woman, and she doesn't have much time for knitting.
Yeah.
But we see her regularly, so we can see how he's progressing. But yes.
That's absolutely wonderful.
Thank you.
Right. Well, we sneaked through to the other half of the house, and I'm here from the waist down.
All right. Would you like a stool or a chair?
I'll pinch a stool or a chair.
Yeah.
One stool. That'll do nicely. I'll sit down, then you can get Crane in to get me back up.
We'll give you a hand with it.
Right, sneak through is perfect. That'll do it. I'm not as important as you are, Clive.
Oh, wishman.
Sneak through to the other half of the house, and I've caught up with Clive, who's sitting quietly spinning. Now you're spinning an incredible mix of something.
Aye.
So what have we got in this mix?
This is a mixture mostly of various shades of green, and it's been carded with some bamboo fibre, which we're really excited about. This little white fibre that you see coming through, it has this beautiful lustre on it. It's Scottish Fibres down in Edinburgh produced this, and it's sea cell made from kelp.
Oh
It's a bit of the
yes,
same.
I've read a bit about sea cell.
It's much the same as they do because they have a wood pulp as well, which they put out, which
Yes.
is a really nice fibre to work with. And then inside there's a few wee bits of angelica, is it called? The little glittery,
Yes.
sparkly stuff, and a bit of black bamboo. But it's very much a kind of woodland type colour, but beautifully soft.
Beautifully
Just
soft.
a few little
And
autumnal colours coming through it.
And the autumnal colours coming through are absolutely wonderful. The lustre on that sea cell is quite amazing. It does look like some froth under the waves,
It
doesn't it?
does,
As you
yes,
look
yeah.
at this bat, it's
Well, a lot of our colours are obviously influenced by our surroundings, the
Yes.
landscape around. We've got quite a few Cardiff tongues and Torridale Beach. But we also make things up for folk that like specific colours, and they want a particular batch of colours for a project. We've just finished some for a customer just recently who wanted a few yellows mixed in with purples. And I'll show you a bit later the answer to the mysterious question we sent you about what your 5 favourite colours were in order of preference.
yes, that was a bit confusing the other day. But you're working away, you're spinning a single which looks
Just
to
a
be
single.
about just slightly lighter than a fingering or a 4
Yes,
ply
I think
weight.
somewhere between fingering and DK. I mean, we do ply if people want it plied, but a lot of knitters find this perfectly adequate to work with, and a lot of weavers like
Yes.
using this wool as well. And we can make it lumpy or we can make it thin, but it is basically an art yarn, so you're going to get changes. So it's only perhaps the more adventurous knitters that feel comfortable with it. But once people have tried it, they're really amazed how it slips on the needles and the stitch definition that they can get from it.
That bit doesn't surprise me. The bit that I find most intriguing when these things do knit is the depth of colour and texture, and I sometimes feel that if I was to add a texture pattern when I'm working with something as interesting as that, I would spoil the depth of colour that I've got. You know, it's as a knitter, it's hard to decide if, from a design point of view, what I want to do that's going to bring out the best in that particular yarn.
Yes.
Do you have that type of thought when you're spinning it?
Well, it's a really nice creative process. I mean, partly it's a bit like being a bear in primary school. You get to play with colour.
Yeah.
So I have an idea in my head of what's inspired the colour mix, and I have that while I'm pulling out different strands of different bits of dyed fleece and how much seaweed fibre or wood pulp to put in there. And then I mix it up on the carder, and we have invested now in a drum carder, which has made life so much easier.
Right.
That's a beautiful thing to work with. And so you then have that creative process of feeding in different colours in different orders and seeing how that looks on the drum. And you get a feel for where you're going with it. Very often it's the landscape or the seascape, or it might be a night sky or something that stimulates. Sometimes it's a person we've met.
I'm saying nothing.
And I have in mind how it's going to look, and then you come to spin it. And then of course, you know, this is the bat. There's usually about 50 grams worth of fibre in there. And so I tear off a strip, and then of course some of the colours that are on the inside then begin to show.
Yes.
And so you begin to change the picture of it in your head, and then when you actually start spinning with it, of course you're free then to tease out different colours as they appear in the wool. There's a bit of blue silk going through there now with some of the white sea cell, and then you can decide just how much twist to put in it. Sometimes you'll get a wee lump where there's been a second cut on the fleece, and then you can decide, well, either I'm going to take that out, or you just let the spinning wheel spin over it and it becomes
A slub.
a slub
Yeah.
in it, which gives extra texture, and the weavers particularly like that. But there, I mean, and then you see the yarn itself, which again change, and then you can imagine the stitching that might go into it and the way it's going to look then once the knitter's finished with it.
Yes.
But I mean, these bats are really good, so turned out to be quite popular. I mean, with weavers, but also with felters.
Yes,
And
I
Laurence
can see
does
why.
some felting as well, so sometimes I have to snatch it from her to be able to spin it, otherwise it becomes a scarf or something. But there are a couple of felt artists in Caithness and Sutherland now that get us to make up bats for them, and they just take them away and make landscapes or whatever.
Some of the felted artwork locally is stunning.
Oh, beautiful. Beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah. No, we were in the Latheran Christmas Fair in November.
Yes.
And some lovely, lovely work coming out from Pat Butler and Janice and folk from that East Coast.
It is.
Yes.
I find it quite amazing. Every craft event that I manage to get to locally, I find something new every time, and quite often from people whose work I've seen before. The amount of experimentation locally is really quite promising.
Yes.
But having chatted all morning and had lunch with you, thank you very much. It was a very nice lunch. We were talking earlier about how you came to this particular part of the world and how you came to spinning. Okay. So, early life as a shepherd.
Well, yes, that was the first job that I got up here, working on a large estate as the head shepherd with 1,500 black-faced yows on the hill, which was an extraordinary experience, especially coming up from the south of England, southwest, where I was from, and I'd been working on a farm looking after 250 Dorset horn sheep, so it was a big change.
Yes.
And I had to get myself an extra dog to cover the ground. I remember getting caught in a fairy circle out on the hill one day that I knew really, really well, and walked in a complete circle an hour and a half, came back to the same place, and the dogs are looking up at me going, "What are you up to?" The mist had just suddenly come down, and I thought, the river's on my left, I'll follow the burn down, and I know it's going to come into the back of the farm. But no, totally disorientated. I even went to the old scheme of just taking my jacket off, turning it inside out, putting it back on again, just to see if I could break that circle. These things happen to you when you're out on the hill all day. But I've always been passionate. I really like sheep and working with sheep, and especially being up here in the Highlands. I've been up here over 30 years now. There are so many exciting indigenous breeds of sheep, and I see crofters and sheep farmers burning their fleeces or burying them in the ground because they're not getting the right price for them to make it worthwhile transporting them down the road. And it's such a huge waste of a resource. Yes. And it's a completely sustainable, renewable resource that we can use for our clothing, keeps us warm, expels the rain, and will last for years and years and years. And sustainability is what we should all be about now.
And we have been discussing in both of our wardrobes things which were produced 10, 20, maybe 30 years ago, and they're still serviceable.
And, yes, absolutely, yes. And hang well, and the colours are still bright. And no, it's the way to go. I mean, it came over to me really strongly last year when we were at Glasgow University conference there, and a couple of Norwegian lassies were putting this as a way of sustaining the remote areas, and the Scandinavian countries have always been better than us at helping small communities to survive and be feasible places to live. And it seems to me, if we can get wool into high fashion and people understanding that wool means wool, that yarn is very often a mixture of
multiple products.
Yeah, acrylics and multiple products.
Yeah.
The people, but you go to a wool shop, but there's very rarely any pure wool in there.
In an awful lot of places.
Yeah, an awful lot of places.
I find some of it is. I understand why some shops have to do that, because wool, for all we love it, at times comes with a bit of a premium price on
Absolutely,
it.
That's
and as you say, when we have so much which is sadly being wasted, could we be bringing the price down so that the sort of sustainable part of it, rather than taking resources out of the ground in terms of oil, to produce acrylics,
yes,
to produce whatever, would be a viable alternative to a lot of things.
Yeah.
It is.
Or if more people took up spinning, they could spin their own wool, make their own jumpers.
Yes.
The number of folk we've met that have got granny's wheels sitting in the attic or on the windowsills and ornament.
How many wheels have we looked at in your house today?
I'm afraid we have 5.
And there are 2 of you.
And there are 2 of us, yeah.
Plenty of choice then.
There are. We waited years to get our first wheel and the second one that followed, but people hear that you're spinning, and we've got a community log cabin and community woodland here, and people keep asking us, can we come and learn how to spin, learn how to do the botanical dyeing. So we're putting together a program of little workshops that we can do there.
Wonderful.
And we're hoping to train, because youngsters are really fascinated by spinning wheels.
I can understand why.
A number of times at craft fairs, and boys and girls just standing mesmerised by that ancient rhythm of the wheel going round, and just happy to stay for ages and wanting to have a go and try it out. So there's an enthusiasm, there's a youthful kind of feed me how that works.
Yes.
So I think there would be an appetite, and people have heard then that we're planning to sort of teach children and hold workshops, so folk have passed wheels on to us, and we've been in the lucky position to actually inherit some wheels.
You were saying that earlier, that one man had said to you his mother would be delighted to think her wheel was being used in that way.
Especially to teach children, yes. Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And it's a different wheel than I've seen before, and it took a little while to get to know each other. But we've got an understanding now.
And who wins? You or the wheel?
It's a partnership. It's a bit like all the lichens and things we collect for dyeing the wool. There's that symbiotic relationship that one can't be any stronger than the other, otherwise it kills the other one. We have to be in balance.
It's like a good long-standing marriage.
It is.
Yes,
absolutely.
After 30 years, the grey hair attests to that in my house.
Yes.
Well, listen, thanks very much for taking the time to spend time with me today. And I believe we're going to spend some time sneaking through to look at this new drum card of yours.
Well, if you're interested to see
I'd be delighted to see it. And I know that there are people who watch the podcast that are always keen to see anything new and craft-based or different and craft-based. So it's all part of the production process, and I love the whole thing. And as you know, I've been spinning recently on a drop spindle.
You're doing very well on your drop spindle.
I've been thoroughly enjoying it.
Yeah.
And thankfully I managed to remember not to bring any with me, just in case the criticism was too much for
Not at all, come on.
my poor...
false modesty does not become you, sir.
Let's head next door. Right, we've escaped into another workroom. Everything in this house seems to be a workroom. And we have a drum carder.
Yes, this was a big investment for us. We've been using hand carders, a pair each, for quite a long time. And then we decided, okay, no, we're going to do this seriously, so let's invest in a drum carder. And fortunately we got in touch with Classic Carders.
Oh yes, I've seen them online.
Saw them advertised online, and I tried a few attempts at sending emails and not getting any replies back, but in the end we chose the one that we thought was the most appropriate for what we wanted it to do. And I forget now the name of the owner, but bless him. We placed the order, paid for it, and then we got a phone call about an hour later from him here saying, what do you want to use it for? You know, you've booked your carder.
Yes.
You've placed the money, thank you very much, but you know, are you sure that's the one you want? And then he talked us all the way through for about an hour and a half, what sort of things we would be doing on it.
That's good customer service.
Just superb, yeah. And he said, and we had chosen the right one for what we wanted to do at that time anyway. I'm now thinking about a jumbo one might be good. And
so this is what, about a 12-inch?
Yes, exactly that.
Drum, and you're thinking of going to 18 inches?
I think so, yeah, just so we can play a bit more.
Saying nothing.
Because I really enjoy it. But and he also said, you know, any problems, any anxieties, just phone. Anything falls apart, let me know.
Wow. So he's proud of his build quality.
Absolutely. Yes, yeah, absolutely. And I know there are other card makers out there. He's the only one that we've worked with, but we were very, very impressed. But what you see going on the drum just now is the result of the mysterious question that we sent you on personal messaging you on Facebook about what were your 5 favourite colours in order of preference. And you came back with this lovely little poem about peacock blue and green. Yes. Fresh turmeric root.
Yes, that vibrant orange.
Yes. Blood red of velvety roses.
Yes, that dark, sort of almost smoky red.
And the purple of boiled beetroot, which we think is burgundy, but...
Close enough.
So I looked through the colours that we had, and we didn't have anything that fitted exactly your velvety rose, but I thought if we put those two together...
You'd be pretty close.
Pretty close. This is rather nice peacock blue, and a green to match with it. The turmeric is more dried turmeric than fresh turmeric, but I thought...
Close enough.
That sort of terracotta type colour. A wee bit of sky blue just to lift it, or a bit of teal, and then we add, this is the seaweed fibre we use,
Oh yeah,
the sea cell, and you can see the lustre and the feel of that.
that is actually going to show really nicely up close to the camera. The amount of light reflecting from that is
Aye.
quite phenomenal.
I just love working with it.
It's like Santa's beard par excellence.
Exactly. Yes. And to be able to use something that has the same sort of properties of silk without having to kill insects to get it.
Wonderful.
We really love working with it. There's a wee bit of teal silk from a silk hanky that just seems to go on forever.
Recycling then?
Yes. And then a wee bit of like a sort of peacocky, glittery, just to give it a bit of a
sparkle.
sheen. So you can see how this is the way I use this machine now. Is the instructions are that you should tease out your fleece so that you can read a newspaper through it.
Right.
But I really just get a small amount there, and I find that as long as you turn the drum fairly slowly, it will distribute the colours really, really nicely, and you can see how the colours kind of settle together.
Throw in some extra
On
light
the
for
drum.
it.
Way. Ooh.
They settle really quickly, and the additional brush
Yes,
helping them at the
absolutely,
back
just
is-
beds them in on
Yeah.
there. If you find, if you have a drum card and you use it, and you find it starts to rise and lump a bit, which it will with some wool, some fleeces. We also invested in this, what looks like a little pet dog brush
Yes.
type thing, and you can, once you've got all your wool on the drum, you can then just run it lightly over the top.
And it sort of burnishes.
It burnishes it, yes.
Yeah.
And beds it in again. And also helps some of the fibres to overlap, and you get that kind of mixture of colours where two colours meet as well.
Quite spectacular.
And then playing with this, I mean, then you could, if you wanted just a wee dash of colour, you can do what I call just painting, which is, say, I would take this wee bit of red just now, but you can turn the drum and just
Drop on.
drop it on and paint a wee bit on it. Put a few lines through it.
So you're picking up just an accent or something. Or
Yeah, you just feel the tension, you just feel the hooks just pulling a wee bit through, and then you can do the same with the seaweed or with the silk or whatever you're using. I like using this one when we're doing skyscapes and seascapes, because you can get a real kind of wavy effect through the colours.
It has quite an amazing effect just as it hits.
It just lifts it.
It's wonderful. It's hard to describe exactly how quickly the entire appearance changes as these little bits and pieces just add themselves to it.
Take a wee bit of silk off the end of the hanky. And you can see how it just lasts forever, because it never really truly breaks.
Well, that's typical silk though, isn't it?
Yes, aye, and then you can do the same thing just to lift some of the blues or give it a wee bit of sparkle. And when you come to spin it, you really notice when you come across the silk, because you're able to tease it out for
Yes.
so much longer. And then we can just bed those in. And we really enjoy doing this. We have a few customers that come back now and say, look, can you make me up a bat that has this colour, and this colour? And I say, well, which one do you want to dominate? And they've got a project in mind, and we just love making bats up specifically for them. Your yarn with those colours is one I made earlier, as they used to say on Blue Peter. Turns out like this, which is, it's fairly peacocky,
Well,
which is... has a nice little peacock shine to it. Is that
going to show? Yeah, can get up even closer if you want.
And we can let you take this away, and I'd be very intrigued to see what sort of project you come up with.
Oh, that'll go into something interesting. We were discussing it over lunch, and I think there are 2 or 3 ideas already in my head, but heaven help us when they're finished.
Okay. And then we thought, well, if you're happy about it, then we recorded the mixture that goes in here, and I like it a lot, so I'd like to be able to continue to produce this. And given your tag with your podcast and your preference for peacock colours,
Yes.
I think, what do you think?
Go on, say it. You said Beardy Peacock earlier.
Beardy Peacock, I think, is a really fine title for it. So
I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be absolutely fantastic to knit up. I've got 3 ideas in my head already for how it could be used. And I don't know which part of the body it's going to look best on. But I think I'm going to stop there before I incriminate myself.
Well, I'll finish this one and spin up the second skein for you, and then we'll just send the second skein through, take that one home.
Thank you very much indeed.
It's been a pleasure and a joy.
Welcome back to the house. I hope you enjoyed that. So, you saw at the end the stash enhancement. The stash enhancement was indeed Beardy Peacock, as it was described. And it's sitting here with me, and under these false lights, its colours don't do it justice. I'll photograph it when the weather's better, and I'll stick it on Instagram, and I'll stick it on Ravelry. But it feels absolutely gorgeous. It appears to be a mix. Well, I know exactly what's in it, and it's that stunning mix of merino, sea cell, silk, a tiny bit of angelica. I think he also said there was some black bamboo in it, but it's beautifully squidgy soft. I mentioned in the video 3 possible projects for it. I've since thought of another 2 and discarded one of them almost instantly. My plan is over Christmas to actually start knitting with it. I'm just blown away. It was such a lovely surprise. I wondered why they'd sent me that cryptic message. Now I understand. So Laurence and Clive, thank you very much for a stunning day. It was incredibly informative. For me, I learned so much from both of you. It was absolutely wonderful. And to let a local crafter show some of what they're doing to the folk who watch this podcast. Your yarn is stunning. If folk are looking for you, I'll make sure that your Facebook and Etsy links appear here in the podcast. Folk should visit, they should have a look at what's there, and they should consider trying some of the yarns because they are absolutely wonderful. We've discussed things like festivals for the coming year, and I look forward to seeing you, pardon me, in a couple of places there, as well as I said, if you're passing through town when you're shopping, stop for a coffee. I'll quite happily keep the kettle on. And that finishes that segment of today's podcast. Now, when I was in Kincraig Fabrics a couple of months ago, Sean, the owner, was absolutely wonderful. He was so helpful, so kind in opening his warehouse for the day for those mad crafters who wanted to visit. I'm still working with the yarn that I bought. I'm thoroughly enjoying all of it. And I would say, pardon me, my nose is itchy, that he's quite a surprising man, because he turns up when you least expect him. I said earlier that Janet and I had gone off to Inverness to do our Christmas shopping. So in the midst of our Christmas shopping, we had gone in to visit the Eastgate Centre in Inverness, which is a massive shopping mall for those of you who don't know it. And as we walked through the Eastgate Centre, heading for a perfume shop, because I was given a hint that I should possibly visit it with a view to considering purchasing Christmas presents as a husband and father, and I know my place, so I duly went, and I won't say if I went shopping, but I did visit the place. And that also took us in the general direction of Marks and Spencer's, where 1 or 2 luxury items were wanted for Christmas Day. And as we turned to cross over one of the bridges that join the 2 massive malls that make up the Eastgate Centre, I was saying to Janet, if we finish in town early enough, on the way back up we'll stop in Brora at King Craig and visit Sean. And she said, no you won't. I said, why not? And she said, because he's there. And there, sitting at a temporary stall in the Eastgate Centre, surrounded by King Craig scarves, hats and holiday goods, was indeed Sean. So we stopped for a chat, as you do. And we were saying, how are you doing? What brings you here? And he said, I'm a businessman. The lead up to Christmas, I thought, it's another outlet for product. Let's book a stall space, give it a try, see how it goes in the lead up to Christmas. And he's thoroughly enjoyed his time there over the weekends in the lead up to Christmas. So much so that he was saying to me that after the Christmas break, he has extended the lease on the little shopping area there. And he's coming back after Christmas, and not with more of the same. He had all of his, as I say, hats, scarves and sort of ready-made gift goods with him. But he said that when he comes back in January, and I think he's there for 4 or 5 weeks, he was planning to bring yarn supplies with him to Inverness. So those of you who don't want the drive to one of the 2 shops, either Brora or, my brain's gone, it's not Dingwall, or is it Dingwall? I'll check and I'll stick it in as a little subtitle under me where I'm making a pig's ear of it. He would take yarn supplies with him and see about selling some yarn as well as 1 or 2 other things after Christmas and New Year. So, knitters in the north, if you're heading to Inverness, into the Eastgate Centre, visit Sean at the King Craig stall and have a look at some of the yarns that are there. I'm sure you'll be absolutely astonished by the quality and the price. I always am when I visit the shop, as you know, I've said that before, and I've shown you some of the things that I've bought so far. So, well worth a visit. And Sean, to you and everyone at the shop, a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to you. And that finishes that bit off. So what is there left for me? Well, there's not an awful lot. What have I been watching? What have I been listening to? I would say that while I've been knitting, I have been watching some spinning on YouTube, and I have been watching my knitting podcasts on YouTube as always. And I am a creature of habit. I keep finding new people to watch, generally courtesy of Helen Duffin, Sprite966. Helen, it was nice to see your name pop up so regularly over the last wee while on Twitter, because every day you seem to be discovering someone new who's worth a watch, and you always post when you do. And I've followed a lot of the links, and I've had a watch and seen some lovely podcasts, so thank you very much indeed for that. The other general podcasting backbone for my watching is the same as it is every other time. Nathan Taylor, Sockmatician, Dan and Kay, the Bakery Bears, Helen, Eva Christie, all of you have been as entertaining as ever, and I thank you all so much for filling in those bits of time for me. I have to say, because these people are there, I never get bored. When I'm knitting, if I'm cooking, no matter what I'm doing, and I have been getting back into the kitchen doing bits of cooking over the last little while. I've discovered that if I'm standing for too long and I decide to sit on a stool, then I can keep going if I'm sitting rather than standing, and that's good because the combination of the osteoarthritis and recovering from other problems doesn't have an effect, so that's been wonderful. So yeah, no, podcasters, wonderful. Thank you all very much indeed for keeping my entertainment centres filled with joy. Is there anything else? Oh, health report. My health continues to improve slowly and steadily, so thank you all of those who have been asking and making inquiries. I am feeling absolutely fine. I was at the hospital last week and spoke to a consultant, a locum consultant, who asked me to do some exercise with him to pump my heart rate up, because he wanted to check that my heart was performing exactly as it should, so 6 months from when I was ill. He has asked for some other tests to be done in a cardiac unit in January for safety's sake, so the appointment for that has come in, and I'll go off in January and have those tests, and fingers crossed everything will be fine. But I like people who err on the side of caution. I think that's a very sensible thing to do. And that's basically it for this episode. Now, as you can see, it has gone almost completely dark o'clock behind me. All the light that's left is primarily the lights from inside the conservatory here. From me to all of you watching, I wish you all peace, happiness and health over the festive season. Have a blisteringly Merry Christmas. A brilliant Hogmanay and Nerdy for those of you in Scotland. That's New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. To the rest of you. And to anyone else out there, regardless of anything, any religious, civil or other interest that you may have an absolutely wonderful time over the next 2 or 3 weeks. If you have a holiday from work, put your feet up and enjoy it. And when the time comes to go back, think, it's not that long until another little holiday comes along. Until I see you all in the new year, cheerio.